Welcome, student of philosophy, to the zenith of the heavens. You're here for an explainer of a truly cosmic theatrical epic, a descent into pure, unadulterated nihilism known as the Red Chapter. We're going to examine the sovereigns of negation and the concept of the eternal return. Prepare yourself because we are about to dissect the absolute negation of meaning, straight through the eyes of its darkest architects. Picture the setting for a moment. A freezing fog drifting heavily upon an obsidian shard we call the pulpit of the perished stars. I'll be your narrator for this journey. I am the Shadow Reaper, the embodiment of the logic of zero. As you can see, my shadow does not shrink as the sun reaches its zenith. It grows to swallow the horizon of human legacy. We're exploring a grand wager over human existence today, a genuinely dark play where entities of negation systematically tear down the sanctuaries of human hubris.
Okay, let's dive into this. Act 1, the Faustian Cosmic Wager.
To really grasp the literary foundation of our dark play here, we have to look at its profound direct parallels with Goethe's Faust. Now, you know the classic prologue, God and Mephistopheles wagering over the soul of Faust. God believes in humanity's ultimate inner light, while the devil thinks we're all just inherently miserable. Well, the Red Chapter gives us a much colder reflection of that. The Lord is replaced by the absolute freezing authority of the Crimson Star. And Mephistopheles, he's perfectly mirrored by a demonic agent of negation known as the Red Spectre. But here's the catch. In this universe, the wager isn't about salvation at all. It's an active enforcement of negation against a character known as the Seeker of the Valley. And the Red Spectre's primary weapon in this wager is something called the Great Fast. You see, the Spectre argues that humans just bury the abyss under a mountain of artificial meaning, what he mockingly calls the roast beast. The Great Fast is the act of stripping all that away, touching the Seeker's feast and turning it into matter that tastes of absolutely nothing. It forces the Seeker to realize their anchor has no bottom. That proud triumph of will, it just dissolves into a pathetic, hollow first sigh.
And that brings us to the arrival of the active destroyers of this garden of hubris. Act 2, Sovereigns of Active Negation.
And this brilliantly illustrates my counterpart, Archangel I, the Grim Grash. With a voice like shifting shale, he is the indispensable shadow. The Grim Grash actively destroys the sanctuaries and delusional fortresses built by the long-tired valleys. He literally walks behind their every hope, uncreating the masks of the herd. Most importantly, he bestows the thud, a heavy, honest sound that swallows their light, testing every single brick of their creation with a metaphysical chill. Which brings us right back to my own domain, the logic of zero. If the Grim Gnash is the heavy thud of active destruction, I am the terrible silence that follows it. While the gnash hollows the meaning from their stalks, I wait at the edge of the fields. My role is preparing the steel to prove that human legacy is, and always was, nothing but dry grass. I'm just making sure the pool of gore is perfectly ready for the ink of their finished story. Let's move to and see how this builds, because all of this operates on an inescapable theatrical cosmic progression. We start with the dawn, which is the naive prologue of the world. That leads us to the zenith, the great noon beneath the Crimson Star. Then comes dusk, the Red Chapter, the literal harvest of human vanity we've been examining. And finally, we arrive at midnight, the great evening, where human achievement rightfully sets on a stage set for slaughter. But then comes a sudden descent of witch, magic, and lunar runes from the cold sky. Act 3, the imp's cynical gaze. Notice the stark contrast here between my counterpart's heavy, active role in destroying meaning and the terrifyingly detached mockery of Archangel 3, the Imp. While the Grim Gnash is out there uncreating masks and genuinely believes he is the ultimate test of reality, the Imp is completely passive. It just watches from the lunar heights, dripping with silver madness, laughing like glass breaking in a void. To the Imp, the universe is just a tragic theater with absolutely no audience. It's essentially the ultimate cosmic heckler. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the Imp completely invalidates even our grand acts of destruction. It looks at the Grim Grash and me and just mocks us. It reduces these terrifying architects of doom to pathetic ushers, pointing out that we're just clearing the stage in a theater that was never meant to have an audience in the first place. Let's shift our focus back to the architect of this wager hanging over the fields of vanity. Act 4, The Crimson Star's domain. We absolutely have to analyze the Crimson Star, not as some benevolent creator looking out for its flock, but as a completely cold, distant authority figure. Dwelling up in the high cold, the Crimson Star merely oversees the Garden of Hubris and demands reports from its dark stewards. It is completely indifferent to humanity's stupor of agreement. It simply authorizes the Red Spectre to go down and seal the absolute test of eternal recurrence.
Which prepares us for the ultimate, inescapable trap. Act 5, the final nightmare. So the crucial point is that this bitter gift of negation isn't actually the end. Welcome to the eternal return. Much like Friedrich Nietzsche's famous philosophical concept, it's a recurring nightmare that flat out refuses to stay dead. The universe becoming perfectly finished is merely a restart. It is a terrifying cyclical reality where even the hollowing out of the human soul, the total destruction of meaning, is just repeated endlessly. As the imp vanishes back into the freezing fog, it leaves behind a single silver moon rune carved right into the obsidian pulpit, pulsing with a sickly light. This rune is a brilliant metaphor for these inescapable, recurring cycles. It's the imp's cynical reminder that while we might peel away humanity's purpose like a brightly colored scarf, the moon will always be watching, and the moon never learned how to sigh. It represents the ultimate detached viewer of a failed theatrical performance that just keeps looping forever. And that leaves us with one final, incredibly provocative thought to ponder. If we, the great sovereigns of negation, clearing the stage of old idols, are merely the ushers in this theater, who wrote the script for the great evening? I'll leave you with that chilling question. Thank you for joining me for this explainer, and may you drift peacefully into the perfectly finished dark.